In the most battle prominent series, there's usually a group of characters that possess unimaginable strength. The Viltrumites have conquered multiple worlds and are known throughout the universe for their monstrous power. Meanwhile, the Yonko have built up a crew with some of the strongest fighters in all of the seas. They have took over many civilizations, and just like the Viltrumites, they are too feared to oppose. But what if the Viltrumites found the One Piece world and attempted to take down the Yonko and their crews? What's up guys, my name is Vertics, and if you enjoy videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Also, spoiler warning for Invincible, as this video will talk about major spoilers following the events of Season 3, so if you do not want to be spoiled, go read the series and come back to this video. Let's start off with the Yonko. We know they are all somewhat comparable in strength. Even the weaker of the group, like Big Mom, is compared to Kaido several times. This is important because all the emperors would hold a candle to old sick Whitebeard's strength, who while dying still had the power to destroy the entire world. This is stated not just by Sengoku, but backed up by Oda himself. The One Piece world is implied to have several moons and be a lot larger than our own, and while some people have gone over the top with this and say it's the size of a star, I wouldn't go that far. The One Piece world is 100% a large sized planet though, and Whitebeard is not only able to destroy it, but characters like Akainu can withstand these attacks even with Haki and a rage boost added on. Keep in mind this isn't the prime version of Whitebeard that is being used in this battle, so he will of course upscale greatly from everything he achieved in Marineford. Those who possess the ability can imbue their attacks with both Advanced Conquerors and Armament Haki. With ACOG, their attack power increases significantly, and with Ryu, while might not provide the same attack power Conqueror's Haki does, it still lets the user attack their opponents internally, being a form of durability negation. While he was in his prime, Whitebeard was given the title of the world's strongest man even before Roger's death and the start of the Great Pirate Era. Whitebeard will be leading the charge, but right behind him would be Shanks and Mihawk. Remember that this does include the Yonko's crews, as they definitely will need it, and it's no secret that these two are right next to each other in pretty much everything. Unlike Whitebeard though, they don't have many feats for me to scale them with, so a bit of chain scaling is going to be used, but we know after defeating Big Mom with Law's help, Kid got one shot by Shanks. Now, Shanks didn't actually hit Kid directly with Divine Departure, but rather the railgun, and you could say that if he directly hit Kid with this attack, it might have killed him. I mean, after all, it's a very powerful sword slash that destroyed Kid's railgun completely. He also defeated Loki a few years back, who more likely than not will be comparable, if not stronger, than his father Harold, who could clash evenly with rocks. And speaking of clashes, Shanks was able to clash with Whitebeard himself, in which they split the sky. However, since Shanks is a swordsman, this is only a Mihawk upscale. Shanks does have more feats to use, but who else fires no-named attacks like this and gets this as a result? Even when someone whose main purpose is to tank these strong attacks, he still gets hurt from this no-named attack by Mihawk. Whitebeard, Mihawk, and Shanks are the major threats of this team, and can be argued to possess even higher than large planetary AP, but right now behind them are Kaido and Luffy. This is an actual debate of who is stronger, but without getting into that, they do have some powerful abilities that will be an issue for the Viltrumites. For example, Kaido in his dragon form can fly around the battlefield and unleash Boro breaths onto many of the minor Viltrumites. He also has Flaming Bagua that will be very effective against the minor warriors. As for Luffy, well, I don't think he'll be as effective of a unit as the other guys will be. The main way for him to utilize himself in this battle would be to counter and attack the Viltrumites, but since they don't have ranged abilities, he will have to get up close to do so, and with his stamina issues, he won't have long to put them down, and he's not getting a snack break here. The moment he's on the floor unable to move himself, he's easy pickings for the Viltrumites. I know he was able to restart his heart one time during his fight with Kaido, but this would be a one-time thing that would still leave him out of energy at one point or another. If he used Barge and Gun, it actually could do a lot of damage and clear the field of no-named Viltrumites, and Kaido flying around in Flaming Bagua could really help them clear the area up. The other Yonko to mention are Blackbeard and Big Mom, who I think won't be too effective here. Now, One thing some of you might need to hear is that characters can be weaker in a cross-verse setting compared to them against their own verse. Blackbeard is a very big example of this, as his darkness powers won't be of much use here. The Viltrumites don't have any devil fruit powers to nullify, and they can easily escape black holes and move around in them. It also doesn't help that he feels double the pain against characters who rips off limbs for fun. Now, the Gurgur no Mi can help him, especially if he's using it at the same time as Whitebeard, but he's way too easy to tag and doesn't have abilities to get the Viltrumites off of him. Speaking of easy to tag, Big Mom is going to get shit on here. I don't think you need any high-end Viltrumite for that, as blitzing her is far too easy in her own verse, let alone the invincible verse. And while she can heal herself and grow stronger with her abilities to take souls, this is only if the Viltrumites feed her, which they absolutely will not. As for their crewmates, well, the stronger ones like Zoro and Odin can permanently scar Kaido, which takes a lot of attack power to even accomplish. Remember, after defeating Katakuri, Luffy couldn't put a dent on base Kaido, so unless you're one of the top dogs, you're really not going to be too effective here. This is definitely far past Continental, as we saw that Chinjiao was able to split apart continents, yet not only did Luffy beat him while nerfed all the way back in Dressrosa, but him along with Zoro and the other commanders have cliffed this guy by several tiers. I would consider scoring Kaido to be a moon level feat at least, and guys like Sanji and Marco have very similar AP with great speeds and regeneration abilities, so they can play a hand in this fight. King might be able to fight off a low-end Viltrumite due to his durability, but I don't know if he could take one out, and the rest of the crewmates are honestly lunch. The Yonko would scale around large planetary level AP, with the top tiers of their crews being on moon level. The Viltrumites are a lot more direct with their scaling, but then again, you should never click on a One Piece power scaling video and expect it to be simple. We know that there are less than 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites before Thragg has offspring with the Thraxans. We don't know the official amount, but accounting for the already existing Viltrumite Empire, they would have around 100 Viltrumites to combat the Yonko and their crews. I only gave them this number since Thragg would have had to build an army of comparable size to combat them, if not even more. Low-end Viltrumites are stated to have conquered and destroyed planets to the point there's nothing to return to. In the show, we see Mark stop a meteor from hitting Earth, while Nolan says that he once stopped an asteroid the size of Texas. There's no doubt an asteroid the size of fucking Texas would destroy the entire planet, yet Nolan was able to casually stop it. This is also the beginning of series Nolan, as along with Mark, he gains far more power as the series continues. One of the Viltrumites that were attempting to execute Nolan was even able to fight off Battle Beast and make him bleed for a bit. This is extremely hard to achieve, as Battle Beast is the same guy who went toe-to-toe with Thragg, which I'll get into in a second, yet lower end Viltrumites can keep him distracted and even damage him. Planetary level is the tier the weaker soldiers possess, although some have tried to downplay the verse with the destruction of planet Viltrum. When Thaddeus, Mark, and Nolan all fly through the planet's core, some people got the idea that this is the cap for the verse, but this is just not the case, as after planet Viltrum is destroyed, Thragg is able to destroy all three of Mark, Nolan, and Thaddeus, of which who he killed. Even Nolan says they have no chance at defeating Thragg here, despite being one of Viltrum's best when it came to destroying and conquering planets. There are also characters like Universa who can power her planet with her staff from galaxies away. This energy is stated to drain all of Earth's away, yet Mark is able to easily withstand this force even while being much weaker than in his prime. There's also Omnipotus, who constantly beat up the Guardians of the Globe and can absorb planets dry and warp reality. He also destroyed a solar system through a chain reaction, and while he doesn't scale directly to that solar system range, at bare minimum he would have had to destroy a pretty large planet to cause this chain reaction to happen. This same guy gets one shot by Dinosaurus, who with those same teeth failed to land any damage onto Thragg and got pummeled by him. In fact, those teeth actually shattered when they connected with Thragg's skull. Planetary and invincible is pretty common. Even the author says that he works with characters that can blow up planets with their fist, but I do think they scale above this, as way after the destruction of planet Viltrum, Thragg had an extreme diff fight with a Battle Beast, where he barely won, and the circumstances around it is to be noted, as if Battle Beast didn't injure himself at the start of the fight, Thragg might have lost. But it's not like Thragg wasn't dealt a serious blow himself, and I still think that if there wasn't any interference, Thragg would have won, as at this point they would have been even on damage, but the only reason Thragg won was because of his healing factor during the end of the fight. Thragg is also stronger than he was previously and was fighting Mark in the sun while tanking solar flares. This is also after fighting and killing Nolan while Mark was not going through as much hard of a matchup, yet Mark still needed help to defeat Thragg, as if it wasn't for Robot and Alan's assistance, he would have lost the fight to Thragg right then and there. Robot's suit is withstanding some of the attacks from Thragg and the heat of the sun before melting away, and even still both fighters were going to die if not for Alan swooping in and saving Mark. This is not up for debate, as not only does Mark directly state this, but he barely survived when saved. The main heavy hitters for the Viltrumites are the likes of Emperor Mark, Thragg, and Marky following suit. If you're not aware, Marky is the son of Mark and Anissa, and was able to damage Emperor Mark, who looked much better off when he was done fighting EOS Alan. Behind them would be Nolan, Conquest, Ursol, and Anissa. Nolan is able to fight off Thragg for a tad bit and even damage him in their final fight, and the other three scale not too far behind him. Some people also bring up Tara and even put her in the same tier as Marky, but I disagree with this, as she was protected her whole life, and while she did fight later on, it was all under the watch of Mark and the Viltrumites. She also has never showed a feat like being able to damage Emperor Mark the way Marky did. I would scale the lower end Viltrumites around planetary tier, while on the higher ends, they reach that star level AP. As for their speed, One Piece characters, specifically the Straw Hats, reached FTL speeds all the way back in Thriller Bark, when Kuma fired his pad cannons that are stated to move at light speed, yet Zoro dodged multiple of these attacks. This is before going through a 2-year time skip where at the start of it, Luffy is able to casually dodge the Pacifista's light speed lasers and calls them too slow. In base, he's already achieving faster than light speeds, and with his gears, the speed rises even further. This is also the beginning of the New World, and we all know that he gets a lot stronger and faster throughout it. Since there are no direct multipliers, we have to once again chain scale with this character is faster than the last. But we do know that Doflamingo forced Luffy into Gear 4, where even then he can still dodge some of these attacks, although Luffy definitely had the speed advantage. Katakuri is the next main villain Luffy fights and will be a part of this matchup. He was easily outpacing Bounce Man, and it's not until Luffy unlocks Snake Man and Future Sight that he was able to keep up with Katakuri. At this point, Luffy and Katakuri are well past faster than light, being MFTL plus beings, and we see that Kaido, one of the other participants, outpaced Luffy while being in base. It's not until Luffy goes through a very heavy training arc in Wano that he's able to damage and outspeed Kaido. In Gear 5, he's able to surpass Kaido's speed and keep up with Kizaru and Egghead. Pretty much all of the Yonko and their top tier commanders are MFTL plus level beings outside of Big Mom and maybe Blackbeard, but due to him being able to react to S-Hawk and bound to fight Luffy in the future, I would say he most likely is. The commanders are pretty similar in speed. In fact, guys like Sanji, Lucky Roo, Marco, and King are even faster than their captains. The minor crewmates aren't as fast, but I'm gonna be honest, and you guys should too, they're a non-factor in this fight. As for the Viltrumites, well, they are moving around the universe in pretty quick spans of time. Getting to the moon and back in seconds is a feat that beginning of series Mark was able to achieve. Even the Immortal is able to do this. Nolan was able to travel throughout the galaxy within the span of a week and avoid oncoming asteroids casually with Alan. I also stated earlier that Nolan was able to escape and move freely around in a black hole just to help the Thraxans. When they destroyed planet Viltrum, Nolan had to pull Mark alongside him to keep up, and even when Mark and Nolan had their arm wrestling match, Mark doesn't say that he's faster than Nolan, although he is very confident he was stronger. He also destroyed the Flaxen Empire in mere seconds. Yeah, MFTL plus level speeds is normal for these guys. Thragg was able to easily keep up with the same Nolan on 3 separate occasions while he was getting stronger throughout the series. He was also able to fly into the center of the sun's core in seconds with Mark and fight him inside of it. As for the low to mid-end Viltrumites, on Thraxa, the Viltrumites that invaded were able to keep up with Nolan to fight him in both movement and combat speed. While not moving as fast as him, they were still able to fight him and even capture him when he turned his back on them. All the Viltrumites would be MFTL+, with those top tiers being around billions of times faster than the speed of light. The One Piece characters are very hard to take down if you're not going for the kill. The most durable of the Yonkos are Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom, with King and Jozu actually having the greatest durability of all the Yonko crews. Sanji is also a very durable character, having Queen's sword break upon impact with his neck. As for their endurance, well, we know that Zoro back in Wano was able to withstand all his bones being broken from ocean sovereignty and go on to permanently scar Kaido. All Yonkos upscale from this, as we saw Kaido in the same arc withstood this attack and many others over the entire night before being defeated. Whitebeard in his prime was able to withstand attacks from Roger, Garp, and maybe even Rocks, depending if they ever fought. While we didn't see what happened with their battle, Mihawk and Shanks would have to possess some insane endurance to survive such deadly attacks from one another and not even possess a scar. Luffy in Gear 5 is very good at dealing with blunt attacks, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the stamina to fight for long against the Viltrumites. The stronger moves he uses, the more stamina is retracted from him. Blackbeard is lacking in this department as due to negative effects from the Yama Yama no Mi, he feels double the pain, and the Viltrumites deliver very painful and lethal blows. Majority of the Yonko and their top tier commanders possess planetary to large planetary level endurance. Viltrumites all have very similar durability and possess their healing factor. The higher tiers like Thragg, EOS Mark, and Nolan are a lot harder to damage than the lower tiers, of course, as when Nolan gets beat by 2 of the Viltrumites that were on the prison ship, he was still able to kill one of them with the help of Alan. Conquest, after his first fight with Mark, was able to survive having his skin melted off by Adam Eve, and beaten to a literal bloody pulp by Mark. We know that Thragg was able to survive many lethal blows from Battle Beast in their 4-day-long fight, and in his final battle with Mark, they were both able to tank solar flares while fighting each other off, and even take dips in the sun's core. This alone is a star level feat, and Mark grows stronger than this version of himself over the time period of being Emperor. High tiers like Thragg and Mark are in that star level range, while the lower to mid ends being large planetary. With all the stats laid out, I think it's clear who wins this matchup. While it won't be an easy fight for the Viltrumites, they still have the edge in terms of scaling. I'm always going to have to mention it, but the crewmates with Logia Devil Fruits aren't untouchable. When cross-verse battles are discussed, verse equalization is to be put into play in order to make the two verses able to interact. The minor crew members are getting slaughtered by the no-name soldiers, and even some of the first commanders won't be able to do anything here. A very big win con they have for them besides just beating them to death would be flying them into space and killing them that way. It's not out of character for them to do this, and they certainly have the capabilities to prevent the One Piece characters from being able to stop them. The Emperors won't be able to help their crewmates, as just one of the top tier Viltrumites will be too much to look away from, and even then, they still lose. Sure, the One Piece characters has ways of internally damaging their opponents, but it's not like this is going to one-shot and blow up the Viltrumites' organs or anything. The pain tolerance they possess is much more intense than what the One Piece characters deal with. I mean, look at both of the Mark vs. Conquest fights. Like, these guys are having their limbs torn off, their eyes gouged out, and still fighting just fine. Nolan specifically was fast enough to dodge this first fatal blow from Thragg before he got to his heart. Thragg strikes faster than any of the Yonko, and this will play a very big factor in him landing major hits on the characters he faces. Prime Whitebeard, while able to destroy the world, is still not enough to take down the likes of even Nolan, as when Planet Viltrum was destroyed, they survived this blast and got much stronger as the series went on. While Mihawk and Shanks have very lethal attacks, they will have a hard time landing their attacks in on characters who move so much faster than them and can also fly. While some of the One Piece characters here have the ability of flight, it's only limited to a very few, while each and every single one of the Viltrumites can fly and move freely around the battlefield at speeds higher than the Yonko and their crews. They also can't handle the pain of getting their limbs torn off and fight them still. They're gonna have a hard time putting characters who can tank solar flares down. Planetary level characters don't even damage Thragg. Even after Mark beat Conquest twice, he still wasn't able to put a dent on Thragg. Most of the guys won't be able to hurt the top dogs, and like I genuinely believe, Big Mom is getting murked pretty quickly. She has no way of reacting and dodging the Viltrumite attacks, and they have too much power behind those punches. I generally think her crew is going first. Every time Law and Kid hit her with an awakened attack, she instantly resorted to healing herself, but like I said before, the Viltrumites won't have an ounce of fear in their bodies for her. They also are a lot better at landing deadly blows in, and throughout the fight, they are healing back up due to their healing factor. Even if you wanted to say that Whitebeard or Mihawk could hold some of these guys off, the other Viltrumites who would have blitzed and one-shot the other crew members by now would come swooping in to jump them. If you wanted to make them even crazier, you could give the Viltrumites, or more specifically Thragg the Ragnar, that he used like a fucking yo-yo in the Viltrumite War. He was swinging them around to deliver very deadly attacks onto his opponents, and he even used them to kill Anissa. They have the numbers and strength game, and it won't be too long until the Emperor's crews are all dead and they are getting jumped into a pile of bones. The Yonkos are certainly a formidable force, backed by high tier power and numbers, but the Viltrumites are a threat they have never seen before. These fights would be a lot closer in a 1v1 setting, but the numbers match up, and Viltrum's strength is too overwhelming for the Yonko to handle. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm, and it's very appreciated. As always, shout out to the boy Tiberius for the thumbnail. He makes quality thumbnails for me all the time, and if you would like some of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter at Vertics_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.